Today's episode is a special episode. It's actually going to be a series. A few episodes ago, we had a business broker, Tanner Noble, on, and we really got a lot of good response with that. And so we wanted to devote a few episodes to really unpack what does a business broker do? What does it look like to be a buyer? What does it look like to be a seller? And this episode, we start off dispelling a lot of the common myths around selling your business. And so I'm sure you've heard many cliches over the years from, yeah, my CPA told me I could sell my business for 5 times what I bring in. Or, yeah, there's so many from, they're going to come in and they're going to fire everybody who works for me. And there's so many myths that I think we walk around with that we don't realize we do. And we get into that on today's episode with Tanner Noble, and I think you're going to enjoy it.
Welcome to the Business Growth Masterclass podcast, where business growth is made simple. Join us as we explore practical strategies for streamlining operations, boosting profits, and creating stable, more valuable companies. We bring you stories from industry leaders, sharing their wins, losses, and everything in between. Here we go.
All right, we are live. Welcome to the podcast, our own local business broker, Tanner Noble.
How's it going, Tanner?
Hey, good. Glad to be here.
For the second time.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to it. And we like to start out with a little bit of an icebreaker. Ooh. So what's a myth that you've heard about selling a business?
That's a great question. The number one myth, I think, is I could sell my business for 1 to 3 times my revenue.
Okay.
Y'all heard this one?
Yes.
Well, tell us more, though.
So it's like, I think people get this from many different sources. You know, they hear a multiple and they think it's of their top line revenue. And that's just not true. I mean, you know, you could have a business that's bringing in $10 million and they're losing $1 million. You know, how much would you pay for a company that's losing $1 million? You wouldn't pay 10 to 30 million.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's probably the number one, is people really overestimate what their business is worth.
So I would imagine, as a business owner, and if I want to exit and I want to sell, then I need to know the right way to think about, you know, the framework to use for selling my business, right? Do you have a process that you walk your clients through that want to sell their business?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I don't know if it's a myth, but one of the objections that we get often to sellers, do I need to?
You're good. No, you're good.
Is that they're not ready to sell. And so it's like, okay, that's great. You're not ready to sell. What would make you ready to sell? Like, when, or do you have a plan for when you want to sell? And so, you know, part of what I do is I help the business come up with a valuation. Like, what is their business worth today? What do I think we could sell it for? And if that's not, you know, something they're ready to do today, then it's okay. Well, how do we get it to where you want to sell it in the future? And so, you know, I kind of help walk through, like, here are the different levers you can pull to sort of tweak your business, get the value up higher. And if it's something that is beyond, like, if it's something that's a little bit complex and they're focused on their business, they don't know how to get to that next level or to do those things, then I tell them to contact you guys.
Yeah.
Because having a coach help guide you through that process is invaluable and could really help you grow your valuation. And Stag Business Coaching is like, I mean, this is a shameless plug, but y'all are great at it. I mean, I've already heard clients come out of here saying, you know, this is the best money I've ever spent on my business. And so, yeah, highly recommend you guys for anybody that wants to go through that process like you're talking about to get to where they're ready to sell.
I appreciate that. I really do. Taking a step back real quick, we wanted to do this episode and we wanted to do a series with you. For one, we had a great response from the podcast your initial podcast, when that came out. We had great response from people.
Sweet.
Just, you know, it was completely different paradigm, a completely different industry, a completely different thing than what people are used to. And so we wanted to devote a series, 3 episodes, and you've kind of set the stage for us, but we wanted to start first with what are some common misunderstandings? Because there's so much, and it seems like a lot of the initial conversation that you're having is trying to overcome a lot of misunderstandings. And you started with a doozy of people walking in and their CPA told them that their business is worth, 3 times their revenue or 5x their net income. And you're like, hang on, I really wish your CPA would shut up, because that's just a hard place to start, is overcoming those misunderstandings and myths. And so, maybe kind of set the table a little bit of those initial conversations and all the myths and misunderstandings that people have, and why is that so difficult?
Okay. So, like I said, the first one is always, not always, but a lot of times, is just the expectation of value, which we already addressed. The second one is, like you brought up already, my CPA told me blah, blah, blah. My attorney told me this, or my realtor told me this. And so I think that the second myth, I've already said two. The next myth I will go to is that, people think that their CPA, their lawyer, or their realtor can sell their business. And the reality is, they're not experts at selling businesses. They're experts at being an accountant or a lawyer, and so, especially for a lawyer, a lot of people think their lawyer can do it because they do all their transactional work. They know about their business. But, if they're not in it day to day, a lawyer who's just your buddy can really ruin a deal and cause a deal to break up. And so you don't want that to happen. The other one, like I mentioned, is a realtor. I mean, realtors are great at selling real estate. I am a realtor, actually, and have my license. And it's great for a business broker to have that, because we can help do the real estate part. But the business is a totally different aspect of expertise and knowledge. And there are so many things that go into, doing the valuation on business versus real estate. And also, not only on the front end and the marketing piece. Well, I will touch on the marketing piece, because business brokers are marketing on platforms where business buyers are. We're not marketing on real estate marketplaces.
Right.
And so marketing is another huge piece of that. And then another piece is, like, once you find the buyer and you negotiate, we help you negotiate the offer and all of that, getting to the closing table is a whole nother level of, knowledge, communication, and everything that goes into, like, think about when you buy a house or you sell your house. Like, you go through these ups and downs. Did I make the right decision? Am I buying the right house? And you need that realtor to kind of guide you through psychologically the ups and downs and every hurdle. You get an inspection, and you come back and you're like, oh man, there's all this stuff is wrong with this house. And in reality, most houses have stuff wrong with them. Same thing with the business. Like, the buyer is going to come and see all of these things that are wrong with the business. And you want somebody there to help them walk through that process and help them understand why those things are the way they are and how that's going to impact the deal.
I'll just stop there for a second.
Okay.
That was you articulated that well and differently than I have heard for a bit, the value of a business broker. Because I think of selling our house, and so many times when you get that inspection, you're like, holy crap, I'm going to have to redo all the plumbing in my house for this person to sell it, and I'm going to have to pay for all of it. Right. And extrapolating that illustration to a business broker, is there's so many times in that negotiation where, the seller's counsel is going to demand something, and having someone in your corner who has been through, dozens of transactions or hundreds of transactions, that has been there, done that, and knows how to negotiate that and what's appropriate. And you need someone on your team like that realtor who can calm you down in that situation and say, hang on, we're not going to do that. Yes, this is a house built in 1990. There's going to be some of the, mechanical systems that are dated. That's just part of the overall pricing. Some of these little tweaks here and there, like, yeah, we're going to give them an allowance for new carpet or a new roof. We can do that. But you have an expert in your corner who can help negotiate that and know where to give and where not to give. That is different, a different set of experiences than even your own attorney or your own buddy or whatever. And that you articulated that super well. That's great.
Thank you. And really that leads to the next myth, which is I can sell my business by myself. I mean, can you imagine you taking the foot off your business to deal with buyers? I mean, whenever I'm selling a business, I have, 10s, 20, 100 buyer inquiries on a business, and they're asking questions. And I mean, there's a lot that you filter out to the seller as a business broker. And not only do the buyers have questions, but you have questions for them. Like, can you show me that you can purchase this business? Can you, why should the seller sell this business to you? And so if as the seller, if you start going down that road and trying to field all those calls and questions, and you're taking your foot off of the gas of your business, and now your income starts coming down, and your bottom line comes down, and therefore your value comes down, and you do not want that. You want to be going full throttle during the process of selling your business so that you can achieve the highest value.
Yep. Right. So the worst thing you can do is take your eyes off the ball while trying to sell it. So if I'm a business owner and I'm thinking, I want to sell at some point, but I don't know if I'm ready right now, is it good to just start the conversation with you and go ahead and learn what I need to be doing?
That's a great question. Another myth is I want to sell my business in 3 months, and so do that. Well, if you want to sell your business in 3 months, we should have talked a year ago, because it takes an average of 8 months to sell a business in the US right now. It's just on average. And so, if you're wanting to sell soon, then, you need to talk to a business broker now. If you're not sure when to sell, when you wanting to sell, or if you want to sell in 5 to 10 years from now, you still need to have that conversation, because what a business broker can help you with is determining what is the value today. And then from there, just like we talked about earlier, like, how do I get to the point of where I want to? So let's just use the example of you want to sell in 10 years. Well, there are things that a business broker can look at in your business and help you determine, look, these things are not going to be sellable to 10 years. If you keep doing it this way for 10 years, it's not going to be sellable, or it's less likely to be sellable. If you do these things, if you focus on these things for the next 10 years, you're going to really grow the value of your business, and it's going to be really sellable. And that business broker is going to be happy to sell your business, and that buyer is going to be happy to buy it. So it doesn't matter at what point you want to sell. I think getting a broker involved now is the right time.
I love creating that map and seeing a business owner, the light turn on in their eyes where they see, today my business is worth $1 million. But if I, reduce my customer concentration, where it's all my revenue isn't coming from one customer.
You want to increase your customer concentration.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wait, is that right?
Nah.
Increasing concentration is,
Cut that out. Edit that out.
We want to change the customer concentration to where, we're not overly dependent on less than 25% of the revenue coming from any one customer. Okay, that's one lever to pull. And another lever is, if we can increase revenue at a certain point, there's a threshold of minimum revenue, and above that you get such a bigger return. And so it's, we need to grow revenue by X amount. And a lot of it is, how can I create a business that is less and less dependent on the owner?
Absolutely.
And so giving someone that, it's worth $1 million today, but if you did these 3, 4, 5 things, it could be worth $10 million. And then go find people to help you get that done, which is, shameless plug, what we do at Stag Business Coaching. But that map that you're talking about, regardless of where you're at in your business and, in a life cycle of starting it or wanting to sell it, I think having an understanding of what makes a business valuable is just another tool, another piece of information that helps you build a healthier, more stable, and more successful business. And that's such an important tool. I wish everyone would come talk to you, get a current valuation and what's a best in class valuation, and what do I need to do in my business to do that. Like that's such valuable information. I wish everyone had that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I love doing that. Like I love being able to show someone, look, here is your value. And then like you said, when the lights come on and they're like, oh, I had a client come in a couple months ago and they thought that they wanted to sell. And whenever I showed them the value, you kind of saw them, it took the wind out of their sails. The value was a lot lower than what they expected it to be. But I showed them, if you do these things, you could get that value up. And that completely changed the conversation. And now they're like, they went back and they're wanting to come back in 6 months. They want to spend 6 months working on those things and see just how does that change it. And they want to come back and, just see at that point, is it worth it? And if it's not, they're okay with that. They want to keep going, but they just want to kind of keep checking in. And that is a fun conversation to have that I really enjoy, helping people uncover that. And if you want to hear more about those levers to pull, like you were talking about in our first episode, in my first episode on this podcast, we talk more in detail about that. So feel free to go listen to that one too.
Yeah. And I think a lot of business owners fail to realize that the more the business depends on them, the less valuable the business probably is in an exit. I would imagine, because it's like, if I'm the buyer, what am I buying? Because if it depends on the previous owner, I'm basically just getting a client list at the end of the transaction. But so it's like having business owners go through that process of making it more turnkey and self-sustaining and process driven is such a key thing. And so if I'm a business owner and I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm making a lot of money already, why would I even want to sell my business? What would your answer be to someone like that?
I'm making too much money.
Yeah.
Why would I want to sell my business?
Right.
And so, yeah, the answer to that is, a business is worth the most. The value of the business is worth the most when it's making the most money. So for example, I have had clients where, they're maybe about to retire. They're in the last years of their business. And so they've really slowed down over the last, 5 to 10 years. They've just kind of coasted. They haven't been in growth mode. They did that when they were younger. Well, because they waited so long to sell their business, now the value is lower. And so if they had sold whenever they were, 10 years younger, and they were like at the height of their revenue and the height of their profit, and they were doing the best, and they were on track for someone else to step in and take that business to the next level or continue growing at that pace, that's a way more valuable business. And then you take that money and you invest that money into something else that's, either another business or whatever. I'm not an investing type, advisor. But take that money, invest it, then, you're going to make more money over the long term than if you would if you just kind of wait till your business is in slow decline and then you sell it off for shekels.
And that so much of this is a personal decision of like, when is it time to sell? And a lot of this conversation is being proactive and engaging a business broker earlier to determine like, what do I want? What's the end game here? If it's, I started a plumbing company and I want to do this until, I'm ready to retire, that's great. And that's an answer. And let's figure out like what you should be working on. So when it is time to retire, you can get the best value for it. But if it's something, I'm going to grow this for a season and then I'm going to sell it. I want to sell it at, $10 million and then go and do the next thing. Once my kids moved out of the house, I'm going to want to move and do this or that. I think that the point here is decide what you want and go get the information from a business broker of what does it look like at various, checkpoints within the life cycle of your business, and then make an educated decision. And I think so much of this is getting that information to make an educated decision about when and how much for your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my mind is blown at the idea of having a business, and over the last 10 years, I could have done better by just selling it 10 years ago. And, the last 10 years have just kind of been unnecessary. And now I'm getting less for my business, and I worked for the money that I could have made investing or doing something else. So yeah, just going to the right person like you and learning this, before it's too late, so I can make those strategic decisions. And what I'm hearing is you don't know until you talk to an advisor, broker, because it's like, there's so many things that average business owner, you don't have time to think about it. And you really wouldn't know unless you're talking to an expert.
Yeah, and you don't want to wait until what I heard at a conference I went to, the dismal Ds. So they're death, divorce, declining sales that we talked about, or dissolution. So like a partner split. You don't want to wait until one of those things is happening, because then all of a sudden you're going to have to sell, and it's like you have to sell now. So you're probably going to have to sell at a discount. And so, yeah, that's another thing. You don't want to wait for one of those main big events in your life to happen. And then all of a sudden it's like, what do I do?
Yeah. Well, and I know a lot of business owners that we've talked to, it's like they're good at something that built the business originally. And maybe to get the most value for that business in an exit, they need other skill sets involved.
Yes.
And going through you and then connecting to either business coaches or the right team on some aspect of their business is so crucial, because it's like, man, that's going to get me to that place where I can have that exit that lets me do what I want. Mm-hmm. And maybe doing what I want is still being involved in the business, but under a new ownership that's paid me for what I've built, or, it can take a lot of different forms, but yeah, it's really cool. All right. So
I got another one if you want me to go to another myth.
Yeah, hit us.
So another one is when I sell my business, let me say that over. When I sell my business, the new buyer is going to fire all my employees. And there are horror stories out there about this. And, in the leverage buyout era, that was a big strategy of big companies, is to go in and buy out, a company at a low value and then fire everybody. But that's really not traditional in, small business M&A. It's the people that make up your business, your employees, are the lifeblood of the company. And that buyer is going to want them to stay on to run the business, because they're already doing well running the business. Why would they want to go in and mess that up? They're buying the business because it's not as risky to keep the business going like it is. So they may make changes, but ultimately they're not going to go in. They want to keep the employees. So that's another big myth that I wanted to get out there, that, most buyers are not going to want to come in and just be the hatchet man and get rid of everybody.
Yeah.
They want to keep them
lose all their know-how.
Yeah.
That is such a common fear with people we talk to, is, they think it's some group from Chicago that's going to come in and just cut everyone's jobs. And is sometimes the case, but more often than not, given a certain, buyer pool that we are putting together, is people that see the value in the system, the business. It's this, hopefully this well-oiled machine that they're buying, and they want to come in and make everybody happy and figure out how can we continue down the path of progress that you've set for the last however long. And that's overcoming that is a big fear and often myth for business owners.
So
absolutely.
So why in the world would I sell my business if I'm only going to get 2 times what I make in a year after I pay for your commission and everything? Like, what would you say to a business owner who asks you that question?
Yeah, I mean, usually in that situation, it's someone that has a motivation to sell. Like, if that's good for you to make that money year after year, then why would you sell? Like, maybe now's not the time to sell. So yeah, you could wait for, again, going back to those dismal Ds, you could wait for one of those to occur, a death or a divorce or whatever, or you could sell it now and get the value you want out of it. Usually, like I said, when someone's coming to me and they're needing to sell it at that price, there's a need, like they're moving on to the next thing for some reason. And so, yeah, that's what I'd say to that one.
And talking to you and understanding some of those levers to pull could potentially get a lot more than just a 2x.
Yeah. Yeah. And every business is different on the multiple. I mean, we could have a whole conversation on multiples, but every business is different. Every industry is different. There's unique things about the same businesses, that would cause a multiple to go up or down based on, if you have two very, very similar businesses. So the 2x thing is just like a general guideline I just threw out there.
Well, before we get to the fire round, we've got a couple of more episodes that we want to do in this series. And I don't know if you want to tease either one of these, but one of them is seller expectations. And in going through the sales process, what can they expect? What does that process look like? And what are some best practices? And then on the other side, we want to do another episode about buyers. What can they expect going through the process? And what are the best practices on that end? And so I am really looking forward to continuing this conversation and really just educating the public and kind of dispelling some misunderstandings and myths along the ways and illuminating what are the best practices to, buy the best company and sell your company for as much as possible.
I'm going to give one little teaser about the buyer expectations one. I am making it a personal mission to bring buyers from outside of Lubbock into Lubbock, because I think Lubbock is an awesome place to buy a business, to grow your family, to invest in the community here. And so we'll be definitely talking more about that on that episode.
Great.
I love it.
Looking forward to that. All right. Are we doing a fire round?
Let's do a fire round.
All right. Why not? Tanner, what's your favorite movie?
I'm really bad at doing favorites because I like so many things, but I think that my favorite is The Departed.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's got so many like twists and turns, and
yeah, it's intense.
I kind of like just like mafia style movies.
Yeah.
And anyway, that one's probably my favorite.
Cool.
The Departed. All right. What's your favorite book?
Think and Grow Rich.
Ooh.
Napoleon Hill.
I have read a lot of books. I've read Think and Grow Rich at least 6 times. I think maybe more. I wish I'd tracked them like you do, but I always find solace in that book. Like it just gets my wheels turning. It gets me kind of grounded.
What is that? Give me a synopsis. What's that book about?
Well, it's about creating goals. In my mind, when I think about it just like at a very high level, that what do I get out of it? It's about dreaming about where you want to be and figuring out how do you want to get there? Like what's the first step you could take to getting towards that? And then it's thinking about that all the time and like just really focusing on like what you think about is what you become,
Mm-hmm.
And so, I personally tend to get into like a funk a lot of times, like, and it comes in cycles where I get down on myself or I get down and out, and I read this book and I'm like, oh yeah, I just need to like think, where do I want to be?
Yeah.
And the title of Think and Grow Rich, like, when you first tell someone about that and they've heard it for the first time, they're like, oh gosh, you just want to be, fat and happy and be rolling around in dollars.
Yeah.
And it does have a financial component to it, but it's also, it applies to any area of your life, your family, your faith, your fitness. Like, so that's what I like about the book.
That's cool. We all need a pick me up sometimes and like just to refocus on the things that we're really aiming for. So that's great. All right. So what's a quote or some words of wisdom that you try to live your life by?
The quote that I think I remember from the earliest age outside of scripture is, if you think you can, you can. And I think that I know that because we had a book. Isn't there like a train book?
Oh yeah. I think I can.
This is Dumbo, right?
Is it?
I think it's the train in the Dumbo movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Am I wrong?
I don't know.
I don't know.
The little engine that could is what I'm thinking
We'll
of.
follow up with that next episode.
Yeah.
But
Shout out to Dumbo.
if you think you can, you can. I mean, it kind of goes back to Think and Grow Rich too, but it's like what you think about, that's where you go. And, there's so many times in life where you come to these obstacles, and if you just say, oh, I can't, then you're not.
Prove yourself right.
But if you think you can,
Yeah.
Pretty good chance you can.
That's good. We talk to our kids about that principle. So,
Yeah.
All right, man. See you back next week.
yeah,
All right.
looking forward to
Enjoyed
it.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Keep coming back. We have another 2 weeks with Tanner as we go through this business brokerage series. And if you enjoyed that and you want to continue to grow in your business and grow in your education around business, go ahead and click subscribe now and keep coming back because there's more where that came from. And if you are a business owner and you feel stuck in your business and you feel that you can't work on your business, go to our website, stagcoaching.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, click to take our free business assessment. In just a few questions, in just a few minutes, it can diagnose what's going on in your business, what's going right, what's going wrong, and what you can do about it. It's free and it's easy. It's on our website at stagcoaching.com. Thanks.